Nicolas Cage with probably the longest mullet he's ever had in his entire career. If that doesn't give you an indication of what kind of film you're in for, I don't know what will. That Movie Nut here with a review for Con Air, the 1997 action film starring Nicolas Cage, John Cusack, John Malkovich, Danny Trejo and Steve Buscemi. The story follows ex-serviceman Cameron Poe, who is sent to prison after trying to protect his wife from a drunk man and accidentally killing him. Cut to 8 years later, and Poe is about to be released and is getting on board the aerial transportation system for criminals. However, his plans are sidelined when a group of other prisoners led by Cyrus the Virus, a noted criminal mastermind, take over the plane. However, Poe manages to sneak off a message to the US Marshal about what is going on in that plane. And from there, your Bruckheimerian action and explosions ensue. The performances all around are actually quite good, or at least quite good by typical action movie standards. Nick Cage, of course, is Nick Cage, and he does well in the role, and you do legitimately feel for him. And you buy that he is a man who just wants to get back home to his wife and child and doesn't really want to be in all this mess. John Cusack is very straight-laced as the Marshal. He's not as over the top as a lot of these law enforcement type characters tend to be in these movies, but of course the real show stealers here are John Malkovich and all the other criminals, played by the likes of Steve Buscemi, Ving Rhames, and even Danny Trejo. These guys are having a huge amount of fun in their roles, and they are a lot of fun to watch on screen, especially Malkovich, who has this great seething evilness to him. And he's very direct about what he wants and how he does it. He definitely hams up the material later on in the movie, and it's a lot of fun to watch him boss around the other criminals. Of course, this being an action movie, I couldn't really talk about it if I didn't bring up the actual action in it. To say the least, it's really, really good. Simon West, who also directed Expendables 2 and the remake of The Mechanic, does a great job here. There are plenty of nice, big, wide shots that give you a sense of scale and scope. The editing is very tight. It's very fast-paced, and it builds a real sense of intensity and excitement, and it's just so much fun to watch on the screen. Especially the ending fight sequence, which takes place on top of several vehicles across Las Vegas, and of course all the stuff with the plane, which is actually really impressive, and as far as I know, none of it was done with CG. And that just makes it all the more impressive, especially when you consider the size of that thing. And the score by Mark Mancina and Trevor Rabin, who you might have remembered as the composer of the National Treasure movies, does an okay job here. It's not very memorable. It's your very typical loud, obnoxious instrumentation and orchestration action music, but it does its job well. It accompanies the scenes perfectly. It builds a lot of testosterone and power in each scene, and just really heightens the mood in the action. And it just pumps you up so much, and it just adds to that whole fun factor. And now we come to the script. What can I really say here? It's a Jerry Bruckheimer action movie. Are there moments where it becomes really dumb? Yes. Are there some minor plot holes or inconsistencies here and there? Yep. Are there some character moments that go nowhere? Yep. But how does it feel as a whole? I'll be blunt, this is probably one of the most fun action films I've ever seen. From beginning to end, the movie is aware of how preposterous and over the top it is. The actors know this and they embrace it. Even when the movie has somewhat more emotional moments, it doesn't take itself way too seriously. From beginning to end, it's testosterone filled, it's silly, it's just so aware of what it is. And it doesn't pretend to be more than that. It doesn't try to shoehorn in some sort of subtext like, say, The Rock did. Here, it's just focused on pure escapist fun. The action sequences, as I said before, are really great. They're a lot of fun. They're intense. I was on the edge of my seat, which is something that very few action movies do. And though there were moments here and there, especially with Danny Trejo's character, where it got a little bit darker, it was dark in the sense of black comedy, and I found it somewhat amusing. And of course, the one-liners that are peppered here and there, mainly delivered by the criminals and Malkovich, are actually pretty funny, or at least get a small giggle out of me. Throughout, the writer Scott Rosenberg and the director West know exactly what they want. But as I hinted at earlier, it's not completely perfect. In fact, one of the characters, who's essentially this movie's equivalent of Hannibal Lecter, played by Steve Buscemi, and though he plays it quiet, he has a scene that I imagine will rub some people the wrong way, though thankfully they don't dwell on it too long. It moves by pretty quickly, and the final scene of him in Vegas is actually kind of amusing, so it's not a huge concern for me, and I believe they patched that up in the extended cut of the film. The thing is, though, if you can buy that all of this stuff could actually happen, you can have a lot of fun with Con Air. It's fast, it's very well paced, it's tight, and I just had a lot of fun with it. And in conclusion, I must give Con Air a silver star. It isn't perfect, nor will it sit up there with some of the great action movies, but what Con Air does, it does well. And it's an easy recommend for anyone just looking for a simple turn your brain off good time, while not insulting your intelligence and being a great slice of 90s cheese action heaven.